It's a pleasure to be here in Leix in the OCA Days. My name is Joan Sisquella and I've been working in ForgeFlow for 5 years. During this time I have been working in several Odoo implementations, but one of my main tasks has been automate and create modules and scripts in order to do automatic reconciliation of payment providers. That's what I'm talking today, and today I'm the only one talking, but I have prepared this presentation with Ricard Calvo. First, I will give a little bit of context, explain the main problem and the actual state on the actual solutions in ForgeFlow, the OCA, and in Odoo. Then I will explain how does the payment flow work in Odoo in order to put a little more context. And I will talk about reconciliation, what does it mean to reconcile. What do we obtain from the payment providers, the information, how we extract them, and how we use this information in order to reconcile. And then I will present what I think it could be a possible solution for the OCA and short conclusions. Let's start with the context. We in ForgeFlow and also a lot of partners on the OCA work for e-commerce companies that have a lot of transactions and invoice from B2C. But the payments are done through a payment provider. So that means that you have a daily payment or a weekly payment with a very big amount, but you have little invoice for each client in order to be reconciled. So we need to automate this and create a pipeline between the individual invoices until the big payout of the week or the day. This automation in Odoo is not yet, and there is not yet in the OCA some modules that does this function. And in ForgeFlow we have some individual scripts and also modules that cover this function, but for the moment it's a little bit hardcore and customized for each company. So here I'm to explain what's the solution we have in ForgeFlow in order for the future try to create a standard module in order to be able to do this reconciliation with payment providers. I will give a very short context about how a payment normally works in Odoo. There is the e-commerce platform that could be Shopify or Odoo itself, where the customer buys there in the platform, and it's generated the sale order in Odoo. But at the same time, the platform connects to the payment provider and authorizes the payment. Then the flow in Odoo works. A picking is generated, and if it's a delivery policy, after delivering, the invoice is created and a payment event goes from Odoo to the payment provider, which charges or refunds the quantity to the customer. But this is the payment flow. And now I'm going to talk about reconciliation flow, which is a different one. And it starts after all this happens. You need to connect to the payment provider, extract the data you need in order to have the information to reconcile and match. This has been paid, this is still open, and build this pipeline until between accounts until your payout in the bank. What does it mean to reconcile? It means that ensuring that two sets of records are in agreement. So at the moment you create an invoice with a debt in the customer's debt account. Reconciling this, it means that the customer has paid and this reconciliation line is in agreement. So what is the structure of the payments with a payment provider? You have all these individual customer debts that you need to check with the payment providers if it's paid or not with information from the payment provider and reconcile them. and start closing them. And at that moment that you know that the payment provider tells to you, okay, this payment, this customer has paid. You close the customer's debt, but the payment provider does not pay you each individual transaction. So you open a payment provider transaction debt that it says, okay, this I'm going to pay you because the customer has paid. And after that, you have the real payout in the bank, and normally it comes with information explaining what transactions are in this payout. So you need to find all these payment provider transaction debt and group them and reconcile against the payout. What do we obtain from the payment provider normally? Basically, there are two main, all the APIs are a little bit different, but you find the same things. You always have the information about the payout. You have an endpoint to find, okay, at this date, we have paid you this amount. And also you have one endpoint in order to fetch the transactions, and you know if something has been charged, refund, and also you can check there if there are some problems. With information about the transactions, you already have enough information to close the customer debt. And then in order to do this reconciliation about grouping all the transactions in one, in some payment providers, you already have all this information together, but if not, you need to build a solution in order to relate the information about the payout, and then with another endpoint, or there are different, you need to read the manual documentation of the API, but at the end you need to put all the transaction information inside the payout information in order to do the reconciliation. And we extract that and we create two records in two different models, which is payment provider transactions for each information of each transaction, and the payment provider settlement for each settlement. How do we that in Forge Flow? We have a common code that defines the payment provider fields, the information, the journals, the accounts that is going to be used, and the API key and credentials to connect to the API, and two models for the settlement and the transaction. And then we have the files for the Stripe provider to connect to the endpoint, to get the settlements, to get the transaction from Stripe, for example, the same from PayPal, from Klarna. So at the end, we think that for the standard OCA solution, we could have a base model with this payment provider and payment provider settlement and transactions, and then create each model for each payment provider, inherit from this base model of the extraction of the payment provider. And at this point, we already have we have connected to the payment provider portal, and we have extracted the data. And in Odoo, we have the data of the transactions in the payment provider transaction, and all the data you need for the payout in the payment provider settlement. And now we need to start to use this information to do the reconciliation. What do we do? What we do is, for each transaction, we create a bank statement line. But we could say that it's a fake bank statement line because the account of this bank statement line is not a bank account, it's another reconcilable line. So at the moment you reconcile this bank statement line, you close the customer debt, and you are opening the payment provider debt for that transaction. And then, with the information with the payout, you look for these individual payment provider transaction debts, and you group in one in order to generate the payouts entry and reconcile against all of them. You can, well, here in this I've shown this figure previously, but it's the idea. This, I think I have, yes. Here is the bank statement line, and when we reconcile, a journal entry is created and closes the customer debt and opens the payment provider transaction debt. And then we do this reconciliation. All these are an example, but normally we have 1,000 in the same payout. Here it's the same graph, but with an example of credit and debit and numbers. So, as I think here it's easier to understand, we have a lot of customers that has a debt. He has paid, but in Odoo we have the invoice still open because we need to reconcile. So this customer has paid 30 euros, 10 and 40. So after that we connect to the payment provider and we say, okay, and the payment provider says, the customer has paid 30 euros, but I'm going to pay you 28 because a fee of service is 2 euros. The same for the other customers, and you start closing these customer debts and opening the payment provider debt, which is a little bit less because there are service fees. And then you do the same, you find all these payment provider debts and reconcile again a payment provider. There, it could be also a fee of service, but this is like the perfect case. Then in the reality it's a little bit more complicated, but the idea is that then there is adjustment because at the beginning maybe it's not paid everything to you, so they say, okay, I'm going to retain this money in order if for the future you need to do refunds, I'm going not to pay you. So at the end there is more court, but this is the basic idea. And how do we have organized this solution? It's quite similar than the previous one that we use for extract the data, but for reconcile. We have some files, or a model with a file with the common code and a script in order to do this job of use the payment provider transaction and create the bank statement lines and reconcile, and the same for the payout that uses the Odoo format and it's already the Odoo's fields there, so it's common for all of them. And then we have for each payment provider another field that what does is convert what you have obtained from the API of each provider and translate it and create a bank statement line, create a journal entry. So again, for the standard solution from the OCA, I think the most what makes sense is to have a base module with these common codes and then inherit from this base, do a model for each payment provider that you need to reconcile. As a conclusions, I said in Forceflow we work with companies that has thousands of hundreds of thousands of invoice each month, so you need to automate that, and it helps in efficiency, it's time saving, you also reduce the human errors, and it helps in the prompt identification of issue because all that works as expected, it's reconciled automatically, and you just need to pay attention on why this invoice is not reconciled, why we have a payment from Stripe that we don't find any invoice for them. So you just focus your time not in reconciling things that work, in investigating what happens with the issues or the problems you could have in the system. And it's also a very scalable solution. As an issue or a thing to take in account when you use this kind of automation. Automatic doesn't mean forgetting about it, because normally when we implement this, there are people working on that reconciliation, and once it's automated, it's people start at this automatic, people don't review, and it's important to review daily because things happen and you will have some payments and maybe you have not generated the invoice or the other way around. So it's very important to know that you have to maintain and you need to investigate if something is not working, find why and try to put it in the automation. Because if not, at the end of the month, you will have some transactions that are open and you don't know exactly why, and just close it and continue with the implementation. So I think that it's very important that this kind of scripts helps in triggering points that you need to investigate, and it's very important to do this investigation in order to avoid more issues in the future. And well, here is my presentation, and if you have any comment or any doubt, please let me know. I will try to give you an answer. Any questions? Yes, please.
Do you have any plans to also do it for Molly?
We have also an integrations with Molly.
Okay. It show on the...
Yes, it does not show because I think we are working with 10 or 12. We have Stripe, PayPal, Klarna, Molly, ADN, Shopify payments. So we have, and yes, having all these payment providers always give you some. It gets complicated because you try to have a common code for all of them, and you need maybe to do an extra effort in order to convert all the formats of each payment provider to a single format that could work. But I think that is something that it's worth it, because at the end, later you only have to maintain one common code. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.